First up will be Odell Cleveland, who is currently the Chief Administrative Officer for Mount Zion Baptist Church of Greensboro, North Carolina. He was the president, CEO, and co-founder of the Welfare Reform Liaison Project in Greensboro, which began in 1997 as a ministry of Mount Zion and became the nation's first faith-based community action agency. He has developed a broad range of partnerships at a national, state, and local levels, including with the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, the North Carolina AARP, and the North Carolina Medical Society Foundation. Odell, we're glad to have you. I'll start with Odell. Thank you very much.
Good. Just want to say thank you all for coming. It's interesting when they talk about the time, everyone looks at the Baptist preacher and said, okay, that's what we need to keep the time for. You know, we got, first, just glad that this discussion is on the table in a form that goes on both sides of the aisle. When I read the book, A Conservative Heart, and I look at the other reports, it's very interesting because 20 years ago when I got into this business, I was in divinity school and I was doing my master's thesis when the 1996 Welfare Reform Act came out. And the thesis was the Black church's response to the 1996 Welfare Reform Act. And in that piece of paper, we talked about how can we do this. And then 10, 15 years later, we were able to move folks off of the welfare rolls to the point that they had about $11 million in earnings. What we didn't do a good job of is to document how much saved us from if Odell was on the system. You know, when you look at that number line, the zero, and we start looking at the negative part, how much savings did it come to the bottom line? But when you start looking at the human impact in folks' lives, how all of a sudden people start feeling good about themselves because they were working. All of a sudden they were being successful. All of a sudden you had the faith community, and in particular in the Black community, the faith community that so many people believe in is on the front lines on helping people, giving them a hand up, not a handout, and being a cheerleader and helping and going into the community, helping business owners say, hey, listen, you don't have to go halfway around the world on a mission trip. I have a mission for you right around the corner. Come on, exercise your faith and get involved, and let's help create jobs. Let's help with all these kind of things. And that's how we became so successful. But as to understand, though, one of the things that we did is the fact that people who didn't want help, we left them alone. You cannot make somebody want to change. And I think in part of the discussion when I read the papers, it's a lot of it you're going to make someone or encourage someone to get married. Well, someone who's been married for 31 years, who loved my wife, who my nose is wide open and all that good stuff, that's for the young guys in the group. You know, you have to want to be married. No form of legislation is going to make someone get married. But I was so disappointed when I read that the current administration took the work requirements out. The work requirements must be put back in, and it must stay in because that's a big driver that helps make all this work. Because if you're asking the social workers in the DSS systems, Department of Social Services, that's what we refer to in North Carolina, systems to be job developers, that's not going to work. That's not their forte. So when they partner with us, usually they give you the hardest to serve because no one's, you know, people understand the game. They usually give the faith community the hardest to serve. How are you going to get this person employed, Odell? And that's when we do our miracles. No hocus pocus, just going, building relationships with business owners, getting them to buy in and making a success. And when you get through having them buy in, you go back to the individual and you get him or her to buy in. So, believe it or not, the Baptist preacher is going to push the time on because I look forward to the discussion. And I'm just so excited that we're having this conversation because in spite of people's biases, prejudice, and stereotypes about poor people, especially poor Black people who look like me, a lot of your stereotypes are not accurate. And my purpose here today, along with others, is to make you wrestle with your stereotypes. We can show success. We can show that people want a hand up, not a handout, but also part of the system. A lot of the problem is systemic, and I'll end with this. Some people have seen the safety net, which is a metaphor for our social programs, and they turn it into a hammock. Some people see poverty as a pillow, And yes, maybe it has some lumps in it, but you know, you can get used to a lumpy pillow. But you stay in the safety net or the hammock long enough, and that what was there to protect you end up ensnaring you, entrapping you, entangling you with life issues. And when you get ready to move, you can't move. It's a problem. So it's systemic. And a lot of the problem is us. We look for the enemy, and the enemy was us. We put things in place where Odell didn't have to work. You don't have to do anything, Odell, so if I don't have to do anything. For some of us, I'm not going to do anything. And now we blame us for what we created. I know it's no amens, but I'm going to push you to the next person. Thank you.
Amen.